Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Unseen Spectrum Show. We are excited to have a very special episode and a fun filled week with um, some pretty awesome people, starting off with Web3Fitty. Welcome. How are you doing this evening?
Doing well. I just got done with that movie, A Dog's Purpose. Um, Bit of a tearjerker, but I'm ready to go.
Well, I don't know if I've seen that one, actually. I'll have to look it up maybe, but I don't really watch tearjerkers much. So, you know, I don't know. Well,
Yeah, the kids had it on.
ah,
Wasn't my choice.
ah, okay. That explains things. All right. Well, generally speaking, when we have a guest on, we basically just get to know you a little bit, talk for however long, and then open it up for anyone listening in to join the conversation and ask questions and get to know you a little bit more. Are you ready for that, Ryan?
Yes, I'm
All right.
ready.
Well, why don't you share a little bit about yourself, kind of things what you're into, brief background about where you're from, whatever aspects about you that you want people to know.
Um, Grew up outside Chicago, was into sports in high school and good in math and stuff. I went to school, business management. I don't know. I was just like, what's the purpose of this? To know how to use money. I don't know. It's important to know, but it was like, what? There's got to be something more than just knowing how to do this stuff. Um, so I kind of like shifted to, it was business and economics, and I shifted to history and economics. Um,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, that's the background. Then I just ended up just getting a job and had a kid, and then COVID and crypto happened. And I've been doing that ever since.
Well, that's a pretty good timeline of your life. Very concise. um, Well, kind of going back a little bit, what made you decide to go from business and economics to history and economics? Just because I mean, I understand that you questioning why and wanting something more, but what about history decided is what made that shift for you?
I was going to go into education, and then there was just no what do they call them, student teaching stuff, and even the teachers like, are you kids sure you really want to be teachers? It's like, that's not a good way to start a class. But yeah, it was a lot of steps, and I think that was like 2008, when everything kind of fell apart. So there's just a lot going on. So I didn't pursue the education aspect of it.
Okay. And I mean, there's a lot going on in the educational realm of things. You know, are you familiar with Tim from VectorBots?
I heard a little bit of that the other day, but no, not really.
Well, basically, he was a teacher, and then now he is kind of changing his focus to Web3 and basically building out some of his ideas for essentially helping and reforming education. And so basically, that's kind of the core of his project is using what he gets established with that project to essentially fund sharing resources and helping teachers and students continue to grow and learn and primarily in technology graphics, web3 and stuff, but overall it's you're not the only one that looks at a career as a teacher, and it is unfortunate that you had a teacher be like, why would you want to do that? mm, Okay, that is encouraging. I personally know teachers that take their careers incredibly seriously, and I hope that they're able to maintain that. At the same time, I've seen a lot who either just kind of walked away early, like yourself, or ones that still pursued the teaching degree and unfortunately never really used it because they got into a role and didn't enjoy it like they thought they would, which is sad, because teaching should be an enjoyable um, career, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I would think so. As long as you enjoy it and
Exactly.
get in the right school and stuff.
Exactly. But I think that's the thing, is kind of like anything else, you have to find the right spot to really um, want to enjoy it or pursue certain career aspects. If you're not happy, it's not necessarily the the trade or the industry. It could just be, like you said, a sign of having to find the right spot. So obviously for you, education was not the right spot, and you got a job, had a kid. Any elaboration on either of those aspects, or did you want to really focus on what you're doing today with Web3 and building communities?
Yeah, nothing really there. It's just kind of, I don't know, 6 years of working, and then I decided to start learning web development, and I don't know, all the years are blended together. It was November of 19, maybe 18, maybe 20, I don't even know. One of those Novembers. Um, and then it might have been 19 because it was about a long year after that, um, where the bull run came, and yeah, never been the same since then, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I guess it depends on, kind of at what point you started. So, at that point, what aspect of Web3 or blockchain were you getting into? Like, what drew your attention to it initially, and how did you get involved at that point?
Nothing really. I was just doing like front end stuff, trying to get a job, and there was the quarantines, which was kind of good timing because I don't know, at home anyway, finishing my studying stuff. Um, yeah, it was more so just the new technology and the money in the beginning, and I learned it pretty fast. And I don't know, a year later, the project I was in kind of dissipated, I guess. And Grandpapa and I were like the last two. He wasn't in the project; he was in the community, and I don't know, we were like the last two there. Uh, so we were talking like, let's do this right. Um, and that's when I really started looking more at the technology and learning it. That first year, 21 to 22, I was kind of getting into it, um, but I was like trading and involved in a project, and I didn't really have time to develop. So about 14 months ago, when stuff started to slow down, I'm like, okay, I'm going to shift my major focus into um, learning better developing skills and making stuff that is purpose driven and not just like, I don't know, cartoons with profit potential.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my main interest in um, Web3, to be honest, and the different NFT projects, is understanding what the core purpose of it is. For example, like Tim's project, his focus is helping in the education system, and he's already taking steps to do that. And that is really what is going to make me and many others longtime holders, simply because not only does he put his heart and soul into it, we know why that heart and soul is there, and it's to help change education, because he saw as a teacher how he could improve things, but he was only one person. And so by taking a step back, retiring as a teacher, and transitioning into graphics and um, Web3, establishing a project and stuff, he has started to see how he can actually impact many teachers and many students, which is pretty incredible, you know? And so when you can find projects like that, I think it truly adds a dynamic to it. I mean, with Unseen Spectrum, we are not in Web3 at this point. However, there are things that we want to test out and play around with. But for us, our core focus is, broadening awareness for spectrum disorders, general, alternative health options and general discussions, and then shining a light on people like you in the community that are working on different projects, are part of this community or other communities, and just continuing to build things out and share not only this technology, but the other aspects that you can build into it, that you're noticing. So what, um, what are some of the projects that you see like Tim's that are, focusing on a good, genuine core at the base of it? And then what are you working at as far as building into that utility and support in the community?
Yeah, right when you started talking about what's the name of it? Something bots?
Vector bots.
Yeah, it immediately made me think of I don't know if you know Mr. G and Will T with Kingfisher's Media LLC. It's focused around Mr. G kind of does the financial literacy and business acumen, as far as filing for the LLC, or should it be a C corp or S corp or a C corp with an LLC. And then Will T is, I don't know their exact relationship, so I don't want to
Well,
you
I'm
know
not familiar
they're
with it.
buddies.
I'm not familiar with that. I'd like you to see if you can either pin a link for them at some point or shoot me that info later, because ironically, the field that I work in, is, at this point, the main industry is business formation, and um, I don't know. It's just interesting that they're working on that, and I'd be very interested to learn more about that, because there's some transitions coming. We'll just say. And I think it is really, really important to be discussing financial literacy as well as business literacy, especially in the Web3 world. I would say one thing I have personally noticed is that while we have a lot of these projects that know how to market, they may know how to build out a presence. However, they may not even know that they should have an LLC or an incorporation or a nonprofit based on what they're trying to accomplish. And, to me, that means that everything that they're working at this point, they bear the brunt of. They don't necessarily understand what they could be getting access to depending on the type of project that's being built. So I think connecting other people in the community with that are just working on random projects, I'd like to know where to point them in the direction of people that are knowledgeable in Web3 and understand the business side of things, because again, it's something I notice is lacking in what people understand at this point. I don't know if other people have seen that, but it's it's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Um, and sometimes I've seen projects launch and then go do it, and it seems like I don't know. You should have it kind of ready when you start off, not use the money you get from NFTs or crypto to do it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I've known people who have started their businesses in various circumstances, um, and some of them highly illegal. But that's what they did to get started. So, I don't know. I agree that it's not the best and it's not ideal. At the same time, I love, getting started. I don't have anything set up for Unseen Spectrum because I know that I need a nonprofit, which to me, I understand that I need the 501c paperwork. I need to establish an incorporation. But if all that goes wrong, the state fees in Nevada are expensive, to have an incorporation. And, fortunately, because of my knowledge, I understand that it's not just as simple as going and setting up a formation. It's understanding what type of formation you need and investing and finding the right sources to actually set stuff up and stuff like that too, especially if you're not doing it on your own. Um, so, like, I get both sides of it because I've been there. I'm still there in some ways with certain aspects, but at the same time, if a project isn't setting themselves up with LLCs or incorporations, they really should be because, kind of like that article that I think was shared through Zentaurios about the Silk Road. Um, the government seizing the funds from that. It's only a matter of time before they start looking into smaller and smaller fish that are not setting up things legally where they can. Yes, blockchain is different than a lot of different investment opportunities, but at the same time, a lot of these projects could be held to the same standards as a, a, a publicly traded company. You know, um, which there's a lot of gray areas. So people really want to start looking into getting those things established for these projects sooner than later, simply because you see the writing on the wall if you understand business and formations and the legalities of shit, and then watching things like this happen where the governments are starting to take action on confiscating the funding and setting up the legal code. And as they do that, we have to know that they're going to present that into business as well to protect people and control it and get money from it too, of course.
yeah, I agree. And if it gets done, it gets done. I was just to me, if it's done, and the more stuff you have done ahead of time, the better. That's all I was getting at.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
I put a tweet up top that is Will T's space. Um, there's several a week. It's almost daily, and it is actually the second episode of Mr. G going over his new class, where he leverages AI to teach um, what he knows. And Mr. G is in the comments if you're looking to get in touch with him. Will T is uh, welcome to the Access Age. So he goes over blockchain, wallets, the importance of decentralization, um, just all sorts of, it's onboarding, but it's also kind of a deeper level. He'll bring kind of like this. He'll bring in projects, especially if he starts. Um, like I think he brought someone in from Safe Wallet when he started using Safe Wallet, something like that. Um, so he'll find good tech or a good project, and then he'll actually bring them in his show and let them talk about it. So it's kind of in between like onboarding and deeper knowledge. So it's both. So they're both pretty awesome. That's I forget exactly what your question was.
uh, I'm so far past, um, you know, burning so much energy over the last few days. I don't remember what I asked either. um, I think it was mostly just understanding that project a little bit more and making sure we, connect up and everything. So that's pretty fucking awesome. Now, as far as Zentaurios and stuff like that, I know I mentioned it, and we really haven't talked about it much. What is that? Where is it heading? And then, kind of as you express that, we'll probably open it up for um, those who have questions or want to engage in the conversation to join in.
Yeah, so Zentaurios is and hopes to be more and more um, tools for people like Will T and Mr. G, and it sounds like you and vector bots, to kind of, it makes it easier. There's tools in there. One of them's the SEO bucket, so you can save your hashtags. I save my footer that I put into the Medium blog every day, because it has the Twitter link, the Facebook link, the Instagram link. There's like 10 links, right? So I save it in there, and then all I have to do is copy and paste it at the bottom of all the outgoing blogs. And below it, it has like hashtag Zenta News, which is a link to the Twitter Zenta News feed, and there's hashtag Zentaurios, which is a link to the Zentaurios homepage. It's all like linked up, um, ready to go. Copy and paste, right? So that's my favorite example. I don't know, just because I don't know, Medium, Substack, they don't have that. So I don't know. I love it. Copy paste saves you time. Then the other thing is that, the Zentaurios will share your posts too. Because I've noticed a lot of the crypto and Web3 media outlets still act as, we could call them Web2 or like even mainstream media. Shock and awe to some degree, but more so like news for profit, right? Which is, I'm not saying that's bad or anything. I'm just saying news for profit is attention for profit, which is marketing for profit, which is not really decentralization,
It's quite true.
in my
That's
opinion.
quite true. You know, there's a serious issue and concern going on in what sources you can trust. And I don't know how much you listen into Gary Vee and stuff, but I was listening to one of his videos recently, and he's presenting some things that, I hadn't even thought about that are just like, whoa. But one of them is that at some point in coming years, we won't be able to trust video or audio because AI is getting to the point where people can develop it, where people cannot tell the difference between um, a real human being and the AI. And so, what happens when, and I think it's already been kind of seen where fans and things of different artists will put up little gifts or like certain aspects of artists, celebrities and stuff that they're saying and they're talking or they're singing, but it is not one of their songs. It is not them doing it. And that's already happening. And so Gary's saying fast forward 10, 15, 20 years and consider the fact that one day what we thought was the most trustworthy source. There was a time, when video actually came into existence, that was a way to trust people and trust that that was a good source of information because who can fake it? But we're getting to that point where we can fake it. So it's just going to be interesting to see how I kind of feel like, you know how that there's the line or theory that history repeats itself? What if we get back to the point in time where we actually want to or are forced to meet in person, especially on major deals, simply because, yeah, sure, you could Zoom, you could do that, but is it actually the person that you're talking to? Like, it's just mind-boggling to think that we're actually probably going to come full circle in how we actually engage and interact. That um, things are changing at a pace that we don't necessarily even think about until somebody presents that theoretical question of what happens if we can't trust videos anymore. I don't know.
Well, I think to some degree, blockchain is a good solution to that. Um, we kind of use NFTs to show what we can access, but if you flipped it and the NFT was the proof of um, authenticity, that would be a good solution. At the same time, do I really ever know if you're Brittany? So maybe I do have to meet you someday and you say, yes, I am wallet 0x, blah, 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 blah. And then I know from there on out that you are the real Brittany.
Well, I mean, you're in the Chicago area, and I'm gonna be there in like I was just realizing 10 days ish, um, for the fucking card show. So be there for like 4 days. But yeah, I mean that's exactly it. Is that at some point we may want to actually meet someone physically in person, simply because we've reached this point where how do we know if Ryan is Ryan or Anupam is Anupam, and so on. I mean, it's a question we should be asking when we talk to anyone online. Realistically, we're kind of delusional if we don't ask that question, to be honest. Um, and I think in general, online relationships are fantastic. And to be honest, a lot of times I believe I have stronger friendships on Twitter and online in general than I do in person, simply because I don't live near any of my family. I moved to Reno randomly, not necessarily by choice. Um, so for me, I don't necessarily know people in the area, and there's times like right now, most of my time is spent, if I'm not working at my job, I'm doing something for my business at this point, or myself. Like that's pretty much it. So, for me, I'm happy to spend an hour or two talking with people on Twitter about different shit, because I feel like this is really, really important discussions that we're having, and work toward growing projects out and ideas that I've had for years, that, just to be able to put a name to what I wanted to start developing, and then to start to actually take those steps and meet people like you, Ryan, and Anupam, Telo, anyone here, um, and the people that are also coming and going with Unseen Spectrum and stuff, like, just to be able to connect and see how there's so much potential for the online communities, and then also bringing that into the physical communities as well. Now with Zentaurios, is there a community aspect for the people that join, and how do they join into this? Is there a cost? Is it a separate NFT? What is it?
Yeah, so anyone can sign up for free. You'll be a subscriber. Um, to be an author, you have to contact me. Um, Twitter is very easy. So if you sign up, um, contact myself or the Zentaurios account and just say, hey, I signed up as this. That way there's no fake Britneys, fake heartthrobs. You still may be a robot. I can't prove that, but I know that you are who you're associated with the right Twitter profile at least, because we've seen on Twitter and on OpenSea and stuff like that what happens when, uh, I mean, it's quote unquote verified, but you get what I'm saying. I think. So then at that point, I would approve it, change you to author, and that before would grant you everything. But a week or two ago, I token gated so I created actually per Web3 Grandpapa, who is TOGRP down there, 7. He said, we get a, like a expanded profile bio, and basically you write a blog which becomes like a homepage of your bio.
Makes
Um,
sense. That's the simple way to do it.
yeah, and so you can actually go to edit and see view source code, something like that is an option, and you can actually style it if you know what you're doing there with the CSS. Um, so there's various levels to that. It goes from no code to some code, um, which is cool. So after I did that, I did make that token gated. So the professional profile is now 1 NFT to do that, which is 37.5 Matic. And then the ability to use categories is also token gated, because though the categories are used to share outwards, and that's like a whole thing also. But like hashtag Web3 business will go to Facebook and LinkedIn automatically. Um, and because there's like a monthly thing that I pay or a yearly thing. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to start, try to get that to at least pay for itself, right? Um, and then there's another thing. You can token gate your own posts if you have 1 NFT, um, which works on 9 chains. It's Ethereum, Polygon, Binance Smart Chain, ADA, or not ADA, Avalanche, Optimism, Palm. What is the one? Crypto.com, Chronos Chain, and then they're like the 9 biggest Ethereum chains basically. Um, and if you have 2, you can actually you got to use Third Web to make your contract, but you can actually have a minting dApp on there, which works similar to, I mean, you just write a blog and then enter your contract information, and it'll create a little page that works kind of like a website for minting NFTs. Um, so you get it's 2 NFTs. If you know how to go on Third Web and make a contract, I don't know what that is right now. It's like $40, I think, maybe 50 right now. And you get, I think that's a pretty good value. Um, then community wise, it's kind of, I'm really busy, so I can't really hold spaces, and um, I'm building the tech in there to communicate inside of Zentaurios. And then I want to have the things that the current social media platforms are missing so that we can communicate better than we can currently. Because I think I have like 20 or 30 different social media accounts for Zentaurios, and there's Telegram and Discord and Geneva, but then there's DMs on most of the different social media. So I want to bring that just as an example. I want to have a chat in there. So when people sign up, we can say, hey, welcome to Zentaurios. Did you verify? This is how you verify. And there's an immediate sense of community in there. and that's just the beginning, the chat. Uh, but currently, it's things like this. I met with Peg, and we meet in the Genius Room with Yanda every morning, where some of us are there every morning, or one of us, Um, but yeah, it's kind of like a touch base every morning thing. And then at 9, I go to Will T spaces a lot. So it's kind of like I go around kind of taking a supporting role in other people's spaces right now. So the community is kind of the overlap of different communities. But like I said, with those tools that are coming, the communication mechanisms, I really want to bring the community inside the Zentaurios for, first of all, to build the Zentaurios community, but for other people to utilize those tools to deepen their relationship within their own communities.
Yeah, and I think that was something I was asking you about a little bit, and I'm sure we'll discuss it a little bit more as I build some ideas out. But I'm still kind of at the baby stages with certain aspects, and I think Anupam has some ideas on things, and I'll probably be getting with him on this too. And really, at this point too, I do want to open it up. Anupam, you could have joined it too. But if you have any questions or want to just continue and join in, as well as Heartthrob, you're as listed as a speaker, and then anybody else, Grandpapa, Donatello, if you want to go ahead. But I'll throw it over to Anupam and then Heartthrob.
Yeah, I was just checking the link that um, Web3 shared. Do you feel that the limitations of Web3, or when we think about the development aspect of Web3, is because of crypto or NFT? Because mostly people associate it with that only, and it going mainstream is getting hindered because of it, because everyone thinks web when we talk about web3 they think only about crypto or nft or making money of it. Do you feel that that is something that is slowing its growth, or am I wrong on this, since you have been working on on a project, and what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I would say it's a barrier or maybe a hurdle. Yeah, so I would think it is slowing it as far as acceptance. Um, I've started posting stuff to my personal Facebook. There's a guy, like he's a troll, like, but he just goes, oh, dude, NFTs this and NFTs that, and like I tell him it's just be like there's like a try to explain it to him. But just seeing NFT, he gets mad and talks about crypto bros and this and that, and um, threads as an example. I could imagine if I came from Instagram to threads, I'd be like, what the heck is this? Like, I think that was a step in the wrong direction for the space as a whole, just to go over there and be so immature about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I myself, I would say I'm new to the Web3 world, but whenever I talk or whenever I think about Web3, what comes to my mind is crypto or NFT. Thinking beyond that is kind of, something that I have to really study about, and it's difficult to get over that hurdle for me most of the time, which I believe has been a very big issue with Web3 in slowing it down. Because when we talk about Web3, there are so many things. I don't know if you have heard about, or if you have read about WorldCoin. It's a company that is working on creating a central identity platform for like everyone in the world. They have a device with which they can scan your um, iris, I believe, like the retina scan kind of a thing, and having a Web3 based decentralized identity platform for everyone. So that Britney will be known as Britney, on Web3, Anupam will be known as Anupam. You cannot fake it. There won't be any virtual Anupam anywhere. So, if you think about that way, but people are not aware of it that much, though they are doing their best to make it popular and so that people are aware of it. But it's, I feel, getting over this hurdle of, I'm not saying that the crypto is bad or NFT is bad, but it has been a little bit of something that slows the growth of Web3. That's what I believe, and I myself feel like learning about it more is needed, and teaching about the same thing to others is required so that they can go beyond that. Because whenever I think about Web3 or any three related to Web3, there are so many NFT and crypto pages or information that comes on my PC on the screen, and that is where I get stuck most of the time. That's my opinion about it.
I agree, and I'll post the blog I wrote. I broke up the differences um, to crypto Twitter. I grouped them all as crypto Twitter, and then there's like crypto news, and then there's like the trading, and then there's the meme coins, and then you jump over and there's NFT Twitter, which is like separate, um, but kind of the same. You know, the PFPs could kind of be the meme coins, right? And then Web3 Twitter is actually different to me. It's about development and community building based off of utility. Because Web3 to me is just the technology that connects the internet to the blockchain, people to the blockchain. And with that comes the cultures of like decentralization or monetization through your own, mechanisms, things like that. And I think those are all great things. Um, and they do get lost in the galaxy of all things crypto.
Exactly. We do get lost in all things crypto. You're right with that. We, maybe if you can share the blog that you're talking about, I would love to go through it. Yeah.
Sure. I am going to go to Zentaurios just so you guys know. Um, I click the little menu bar, I hit posts, I hit search all. I'm just going to type in crypto Twitter, search, crypto Twitter guide. Boom, right there. So, talk about utility. It's like my own, that was easier than going and finding a tweet, right? So I'll tweet that right now. We could keep going and then I'll pin it up there.
Okay. That is what was in my mind. I think there will be someone else who has a question or who wants to speak about this thing. Talk. Uh, Brittany, are you there? I think Brittany is not here. Yep.
All right.
And
Well, I'll say a little bit about
Sorry.
Zentaurius
What
because
I was
you
sharing
know.
a thing, but yeah, go ahead, Heart. Drop. Sorry.
All right. Thank you, Brittany. And thank you for hosting the space. Definitely wonderful connecting with you. But yeah, like I've been using Zentaurius since the beginning and growing with it. And one thing he forgot to mention was daily quests linked through Zeely. You can also find that find it through his page. And yeah, I mean, I like it. I like the ease of use. I mean, like I I get technologically challenged, so I am hell bent on learning technology. And what I find Web3 is nothing more than a buzz term meaning the future of the internet, because it goes with the whole technology changing every day. I mean, I go on Futurepedia every morning and between, about 25 different new AI programs released out into the public without having to go to GitHub to get the API or whatever it is, then go through all that rigmarole. But I definitely, I put my blog up there every day. I always post a flower every day, and then the story is either a little fun little story to read, or it's a story based off what I'm going through or what's going on. It's just, a story is just a fun way to put out the information without it being cut and dry and reading bullet points.
Well, thank you for bringing that out, because you definitely did add a little bit more of a depth to some of the aspects of what is built into the community, which I appreciate. Go ahead. I think it's Grandpapa.
Just real quick, the that Zeely has a lot of opportunity because the quests are not limited to. I mean, they're mostly to retweet Twitter or join the Discord or something like that. But something I plan long term is the NFTs are available through fiat purchasing, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and various cards. So someone who's never bought crypto before could get the NFT, get going on the platform, get to meet everyone, this network that keeps growing, people like the people in here. And then they could start doing these quests to kind of grow their social presence and get connected deeper in the, Web3 network. But also the quest could evolve to be more like educational focused. And then some of them actually reward Matic. So someone could never buy crypto, get this NFT, learn about.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I really don't know what happened, but it is what it is. So we should be good to go. Please continue.
Yeah, I was just saying, people could get the NFT for the utility and for the community, and through work and not staking or something, which I'm not against staking. It's just questionable what the outcome, with the SEC is going to be with that. So they could do tasks to collect maybe their first Polygon Manic that they ever had. So that's the deeper long-term thing of Zeely.
Okay. Very cool. Sorry, go ahead, Anupam.
No, nothing. I think Tog RP, there was someone who raised his hand to speak, but then we got disconnected, I believe. That is what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay.
And I just
Yeah,
now
and I was trying to think.
restarted the recording
It was
also.
Web3 Pop Grandpapa. What's his tag?
Okay.
Web3, and I can tag him on this. And oh, it looks like you tagged him. Never mind. Yeah, so we can get him back. Um, yeah, continue. Sorry, I'm never.
Yeah, I saw his Twitter profile. It's about Web3 scams or something. So I really wanted to hear him out. So that's why.
Okay. I mean, what I really like about this is that, um, I know Web3 earlier you had mentioned, or Web3Fitty, you'd mentioned a couple of things. One thing with taking a look at the social media platforms and what's missing, as well as, and basically making communication better, which I wholeheartedly agree with. And, you know, blockchain is, like you said earlier, I think blockchain is a potential solution, and even Anupam brought up WorldCoin as how to continue that building of a relationship despite not necessarily being able to trust old sources that were considered trustworthy in the past, or meshing the two so that way we know. I mean, think if we can put something like WorldCoin in with a Zoom call, so that way the Zoom software itself is able to scan the people's irises on the meeting and ensure that it is who the actual people in the meeting. It's pretty fascinating that all of this is out there, and I think that part of that slow up. I've heard, I think Gary and in Marketing for the Now, they had an AI episode, and they mentioned homework season and how right now all of us really should be doing our homework and learning about AI, testing it, playing with it, not necessarily using it in certain aspects of our life or business simply because of copyright concerns and issues, especially if you get into client work and stuff. However, we need to be doing the research. We need to put that time in, and there's so many projects out there that it can get overwhelming, especially if you're new and you don't know, and there are scams out there all over the place. So, what is your understanding of how Zentaurios, as well as other communities, can protect their members by starting to utilize blockchain?
I mean, I see the token gating as it's an extra level because some places it's email password, or you use the Facebook or Twitter login, or Google is a really popular one, and then that one requires an email or password, and then you have some things require a phone number. You get more out of Twitter if you have your phone number. I think you need it for Twitter Blue and stuff. So you can replace the phone number, in my opinion, with the wallet address. It's one thing I see.
Yeah, that makes sense. It could almost become that third, fourth level verification, especially depending on the platform. If as things are built out on a project, they can become more and more serious, and security does become important. And token gating, I feel like, is a good way to protect people, even if people don't understand it. I mean, what though do we think it's going to take for platforms like Google, Twitter, and stuff like that to actually ever have that as an option in their communities? Do you think it's going to take something like your community growing and showing the importance of it, or other aspects?
I think it was in March, or May. One of the last few months, Google actually announced it's switching its authentication to a public key and private key login. And at the same time, they had partnered with Polygon, and this wasn't the first time they partnered with blockchains, but they partnered with a handful of them. Not Ethereum, and they had already partnered with Binance in the past, but the next bunch. So that was just kind of a sign to me that, nothing's set in stone with that, right? But I think they see the value of the private key over 2FA or something like that. If Google is going to switch to public private key, and that's not saying they're going to just use blockchain all of a sudden, but they've already set the stuff in play to. They were giving grants for cloud hosting for Web3 connections and stuff like that. Like if you use Google Cloud and Polygon, you were eligible for a certain amount of grant money, free storage for 2 years or something like that. So I do think it's coming into play, and I think that will be, oh, the same week they announced that, they announced something with the they announced the Google blue check mark. So, you know, I don't know. There's nothing set in stone there, but that 1 week was pretty crazy with all those announcements, and I think I would just guess that something's happening, and it will be someone like Google that shows the value, the real, well, there's a lot of real values, but that's going to be like a message towards mass adoption that this stuff is valuable technology.
Yeah, and I would say with a lot of technology advancements, there are times where you kind of have to bridge the gap a little bit um, between people who don't necessarily understand, but if you kind of drop breadcrumbs, eventually they find their way to that next spot. I mean, think about how many communities refuse to use the tractor or watch a TV, have a radio, in fighting that technology. But as time goes on, there's breadcrumbs that get dropped. I mean, think about how many people refuse to use things like Zoom prior to COVID. However, COVID showed us just how important software like that is, and that it's a really damn good thing we have it established, and that we knew how to use it, because we recovered a little bit quicker than we would have pre-Zoom days. I mean, think about previous pandemics and just how bad they were. And a lot of it comes down to technology advancements, as well as healthcare advancements, And so we're going to see that, and it sounds like we're starting to already see that through Google and other platforms. And it's kind of funny. I don't know. I have a random question to ask about kind of your background with history and globalization a little bit. But, I remember in school, when I was in high school, I had at least one teacher talk about globalization from the standpoint that one day we would be paying premiums for the internet and different websites and shit like that, just to like basically be part of it, kind of thing. And I remember as students, a lot of us, I mean, yeah, sure, there was the internet and obviously, computers and shit like that, because I graduated in 2005. However, I still remember dial up and shit like that. So, having a teacher actually bridge that gap between when they talked about globalization in history and then you compare it to technology and advancements, that's how this is happening. That's how it comes together. And at some point, yeah, you're going to be paying hand over fist to get what you need to in your life and business on the internet. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of happening. I got another blog about the history, not the history, what was it called? How advertising and technology affected social media, something like that. But, the whole thing was like, you could use Facebook and YouTube free because they were getting ad revenue. And the reason Google became Google is because they had a different ad revenue than like Yahoo, and Yahoo had a separate search for paying members or something like that. And Google's like, no, we're just going to give you the best results, and like show you ads along the way. General idea, right? So because it was the best, people used it. And now it's like, I mean, we see it on Twitter now. If you don't pay, you don't get to play, I guess. Or if you don't have a huge following. Instagram's the same. I don't know if you guys go over there, but like just dying. And I think that's still the most money still goes there, even though TikTok uh, is like the most used. I don't know. The numbers are in the blog. But yeah, it's already kind of there. It's not that you have to pay to go on Twitter, but you kind of have to be paid to be seen on Twitter, which goes back to what I was saying
Yes.
before about the news and for profit and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, news for profit, it's not much different than propaganda at that point because really who is paying for it? Um, we have to be asking those questions. If we're not asking those questions, we're being pulled all over the place. You watch all of the misinformation going on, and there comes a point where, to be honest, I don't even bother researching certain topics or listening. Like most mainstream media at this point, um, I, some of them I even have blocked on Twitter because I got to a point where I didn't even want to see their shit. And you're talking like major networks, but it's exactly that. They're profiting from sharing the news, and at some point in time, news was news. It, like there are ways to share news and still earn something from it without necessarily jackknifing the shit out of it and turning it into pretty much whatever the fuck your sponsors and partners are paying for. It's one thing to have an advertisement on a platform, it's another thing to have investors into that platform that come along and say, hey, talk about this, talk about that, give this information, don't share that bit. And you can see it all over the place. And I'm glad to see more communities developing that are actually trying to shine lights of truth and everything on these aspects and helping people understand that. I mean, we are all drawn to light, even if we prefer nighttime and we're owls and all that shit. Like, in general, just inherently, naturally, as people, we want good information. We want to trust people. We need that light. We're drawn to it just like moths to a light. So the more we do it, it might take time, but the more everyone's taking part, I was explaining to my aunt about her sharing some of her stories and some of the stuff from just life experience in general and things like that. And she's like, what's the point? There's so many people sharing. And I'm like, but the idea here is what's better, a million shouting voices or 1,000,001 or 1,000,002, 1,000,004? I see more and more people genuinely opening up in the community I belong to because we're all connecting and we're all genuinely sharing with one another. And so we just spur each other on. So the more we share that, the better it becomes and the stronger we grow. I'll end my rant there and turn it over to whoever wants to ask a question or join the discussion or respond to my very long rant.
I believe that regarding the media, Elon Musk, when he bought Twitter, he tried to disrupt the media industry, but I don't know, he got stuck somewhere, or he is not able to do it the way he imagined. That's how I looked at it. That's my opinion. And on the other side, this thing about identity theft or not being able to figure out what is real and what is virtual has always fascinated me. I don't know if I'm from India. If there was a government program which is still quite successful known as Aadhaar. So we have an identity card that has a 12-digit number on it, and the government issues this card to everyone. Every child who is above the age of 5 has to get this thing for getting an admission in school or for any other purpose. So we have a retina scan done as well as our biometrics. It's saved in the central servers, the government servers, and even if we want to get a SIM card for our cell phone, or we want to get an admission in a college, or if we want a driving license, anything that is required, we have to use this 12-digit number. So it cannot be faked. It cannot be, even if we want to get a bank loan, we have to use this number. So we get an OTP. If we don't have a biometric system on our hand, we get an OTP, we authorize it, and then we move ahead. If we have a biometric, we can use that for authentication purposes. I see WorldCoin in the same way, but it's just that it's decentralized and everything has its pros and cons. So if slowly and slowly more and more governments try to adapt this thing, maybe there will be a time for having a blue check mark, we don't have to verify this thing through Twitter's platform, and we can integrate the same identity system like Aadhaar in India or anything else in other country to this, and it will be easy for the systems to verify, is this the real Anupam or Brittany or Web3 or anyone who is there. We need a decentralized thing for this for sure in the future. This thing has always fascinated me, and there's so many ideas or questions that come to my mind. It's really difficult to organize it all together. But yeah, I think it's very necessary in the coming years to understand what is real and what is not. I mean, though people think that, we giving our information to the government is like an invasion of our privacy and everything, but it is something that will be necessary in the coming years, and we don't have any option than to go for it. Yeah, I hope I was able to make myself clear since English is my second language.
Nope, I definitely understand, and it's very interesting to understand the biometric aspect. I mean, here in the U.S., we are issued Social Security numbers, which is essentially what you're discussing. However, it is not that controlled as far as what you're allowed to purchase and stuff. You do need it for personal loans, um, credit cards, stuff like that. But you wouldn't necessarily need it to get a SIM card, or a computer and certain aspects like that.
Yeah, the thing is, when we buy a SIM card or something, it is important to use a Aadhaar card, because that way it cannot be reissued to someone. So if I have a particular phone number and it is issued to me and someone tries to fake my identity, they will have to give the same biometrics, and it will immediately show up that this number has been assigned to Anupam, and this person is trying to take that number in his name or to use it for any other purpose. Because the most easy way to scam someone or to steal money out of someone is just have their phone number, install a couple of banking apps, and just get the transaction done through the OTP. So it's very difficult for someone to issue the same number that has been issued to me with this identification system that we have in place. Yeah, I think request.
Go. Yeah, that's Web3 Grandpapa. Go ahead.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I'm actually a little bit of a WorldCoin fan as well. So there's quite a few points that you've touched on that I like. I'm actually just waiting to see the outcome of the IMF with WorldCoin. I'd love to jump in and get a bit more involved with what WorldCoin is doing. But my concern is that if the IMF gets their hands on it, which they're basically trying to get control of or involved with all of these things, where the big, I think, attraction for a lot of people, where WorldCoin has the potential, is the fact that you still keep your transactions private, even though you are who you are. One of the things that's going for it is your information is still kept private, even though people know who you are. And the IMF wants to change that. The IMF wants to get control of all these things. That's the International Monetary Fund. And that's the only turn off I have, where I think across the board, WorldCoin has a lot going for it, but it's the IMF that is bothering me at the moment, and I hope WorldCoin can stand up to them and stand up and actually become a dominant force in how they're trying to implement things worldwide. That's one. I think they're fantastic, and I can see a future for them if they can separate themselves with what the IMF is trying to do. I think they can be very successful. The other thing, I'm a huge fan of Zentaurios, and one of the reasons why is, like you guys were touching on, it's the ability for token gating and private communities, and the ability to have a larger community and a safer community in the future, and quite a large community. And in the future, you'll be able to have video chats in there. You can token gate, like I'm about to token gate some information in there that just community members can access, just community members. So if you're a community member, you can access it. Then I have some of my own stuff token gated as well for courses and training and doing things. And I think as community groups for information and decentralized more in the future, the way it's setting up, things like Zentaurios, I think, are going to grow. And I think Ryan's at the forefront of innovation with some of the things that I believe he's going to be implementing in the future. And lastly, this might be a little bit out there for some people, but actually for family and friends and that deeper level of connection around the world, I actually think private metaverses that are token gated, quite large metaverses, where you can meet up with friends and families and do activities in there, in that metaverse, whether it's sailing a boat or fishing or swimming. You can set up a lot of interesting games internally inside, thank you, that you can do in a private world, thank you, and a private metaverse, that you can really keep developing those relationships or your better friend people. And that can be token gated as well. And you can have it in there. So, if you have a big enough world, you can race cars against each other, then go fishing or go swimming, or you can do all these sort of things with your community that you build. So I see sort of two things there, like one with like the social media and building that trust group or of internal trust group. And the other thing like an interoperable metaverse that can be combined with other metaverses in the future, and I'm sure that's going to be a possibility. But having your own world where you can actually go in and develop it slowly, there's lots of interesting stuff in there, but then it's only people that you want to have access in that particular world that I think those other relationships are going to grow there at some level.
It's funny, recently I've been imagining scenarios where what if women want to go shopping together, but the weather is shitty, or they don't want to go to the mall, they want to go to Amazon. And they just meet up in, like you were describing, their little metaverse, and then they go as a group as if they're meeting up in person, but they're actually going shopping in essentially the Web3 metaverse world, whatever the fuck, there's so many different potentials that we haven't even started to fully grasp or conceive or even put together, simply because we're all still asking those what if questions and then starting to build it. I kind of feel like we're in like a Lego movie almost, where we're all just having to put all the pieces together and build something and be like, oh, we can do this. Perfect. Okay, we got that down. It's a step-by-step thing, and that's why it's so important that we do grow these communities and have these conversations, because the more links we connect together, the more bricks, brick by brick, step by step, that's what is going to strengthen all of this and bring all these different perspectives and possibilities together. I know with Peg, she talked with Audacity today, and they have like their little space, metaverse, whatever the fuck, where like even they set up a thing for PEG where basically when their community members go into the area, you can actually learn about and connect with other members. It's not that you see them personally there in the space, but they basically set up, kind of like billboards or, whatever as you're walking through the spaces and different things. So yeah, it's there, and I feel like we're scratching the surface personally with a lot of this. What do you guys think?
I know I have a personal 390-acre metaverse that I'm slowly developing and doing stuff on. And I've also have a much larger one than that I'm working on a different project slowly with Web3Fitty as well. And, and I actually own 4 other private little metaverses that are being developed out over the future as well. So I definitely believe in them. And look, I think that finding a way to have trusted community, thank you, is very hard. I was talking to a photographer friend of mine last night, and he was saying they're just bringing out some tougher and tougher regulations for photographers. They basically need to sign their life away when they put some photos in now, proving and being willing to be penalised if they've used any AI or if it's not really them doing it. And I think that trusted verification is going to come with a couple of different layers of security, of verification of a person and a verification of a location. Now, do I think we can do that in a decentralized manner? Yes. Do I think we're going to easily do it without government interference? Probably for 5 minutes. Then I think they're going to try and force their way in, but then I think it's not going to be successful. I do think there will be fights over it. I do think there'll be hassles over it. I think the internet is too big, too powerful, and too strong for that to happen. But I think when the first lot of genuine mass adoption happens, it's going to happen through a centralized way into a decentralized place. And as more of those people get educated, they're all going to head for the hills in a more decentralized private area and start using it once they understand it better. So 1, I think we're in the right space at the right time. 2, I think the big adoption is going to come from some centralized manner. That's going to, as people get educated, turn into a more decentralized area, and the developer's going to go from there. But setting ourselves up now so we can cope with both or be in a position to deal with both, I think is the key and is what we're doing.
Yeah, when I was getting the token gating going on Zentaurios, I was thinking of, the security aspect of it as I coded it, and I was thinking it kind of like flipped the script of the NFT for me. And an example that really stuck out to me is I was in a space and someone asked what people's favorite books are, and it was a lot of women in there, and they started talking about all these romance novels, right? So if there was, say, an amateur romance novel club, maybe that's not something you want everyone to see, right? You could token gate between yourselves. You don't even have to pay for the NFT, right? It's not like a pay to thing. You would just say, okay, the 8 of us are all going to share our amateur romance novels. And that way other people, we won't be embarrassed. We can critique each other in privacy. So I agree with
Call
everything.
it Gray Chain. Sorry.
What is it? Gray Chain?
Gray Chain.
Like 50 Shades?
I mean, I'm just saying. It's a joke.
Yeah,
But
but
you're not
I
wrong.
think the application's already there. I agree with what Grandpa said, but like that changed how I saw NFTs, and then also in line with what he said, how you could build community through token gating or all this other technology coming out, even for something like that simple. Not that you want to make money off NFT, it's that you want, it's a key. NFTs is keys, right, Grandpapa? So it's like a club.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, and I think that's a really great idea as far as how you really can just start having all of these separate metaverses, but then also start connecting them together, and like you said, not exchanging anything besides turning a key, or essentially showing a key in order to enter that space. And for me, for a long time, I've envisioned like the internet. I view Twitter as its own little bubble, and then there's Facebook, and then there's websites. And so, when I think about, for example, the projects I'm working on, I see me establishing all these little bubbles and then connecting them to the various platforms and perspectives. And essentially, that is what Web3 is doing. Like you said before, it's essentially Web3 blockchain. Actually, it's not even Web3. Web3 is the advancement of the internet, but blockchain is the tool to continue connecting things together and making it stronger, and really, I think, pushing the boundaries of reality and what we actually consider in person, out of person, metaverse, stores, shop, like all these different aspects that we were just starting to kind of conceive as real. Go ahead, Grandpapa.
I think this is all interesting. I do see some of these larger platforms right now over the next 6 to 12 months trying to force the people that use them to do everything in-house and stay loyal to them, and there'll be some level of penalty when you step out and use a different platform or try and cross-platform with something. There will be a downgrading or a penalty in there, and it's going to be up to the users like ourselves to put a foot down, or like with Web3Fitty, where these other platforms are coming together, and when they realize people are going to march with their feet and use other smaller platforms because of that, they're then going to swing round and realize that if people like choice, right, and we don't want to be forced in one direction or another. So if I can have interoperability between Twitter and Facebook, and with contracts, they can clearly see where the line is as far as their financial gains go, that we can actually utilize all these platforms. But I also think that's one of the things that's going to make individual platforms or individual little worlds. You can have a Britney thing where you have like 50 different things, and some people might have access to 20 of them. Some people might have access to 30 of them. Some people might have access to 50 of them, but it's your choice. And I think that interoperability, when it comes to there, is that big evolution. And with that, I actually think that this space is also going to make it where you're going to find different ethnic groups are going to migrate to their own platforms or their own metaverses. And you're going to have, a karate verse, and you're going to have a bowling verse and a cricket verse, and all those individual things that we're going to be out there. So I think it's going to be, the opportunity for people to have general, real separation of, I can have a Latino music verse, and you want to go somewhere and listen to Latino music, you can get a ticket and go in this metaverse, and all they do is have all different Latino people playing music. If you want country and western, you can go there. And if you like this particular sports, you can go there. I really can see it dividing up that way longer term, and that's where the space is going to, really grow. And then when it's going to be, people are going to like places that are interoperable, and people are going to like places where the security level and the privacy is high, but they can have freedom of access and movement in and out.
I love what you're describing because that's ultimately what I've been kind of visualizing and sensing recently, especially now that I'm starting to understand some of the projects more and what those possibilities are. I think it's really opening up my mind, kind of like Anupam. When I first started learning about crypto and blockchain and stuff, it took a lot for me to force my brain to understand connecting things together. And it's not that I didn't understand the terms and the things and what it was accomplishing. It just simply was me recognizing that my brain was going to take a minute to process this. And that's all right. I've been one of those people where I haven't invested much into crypto. I didn't get in when Bitcoin came out. I didn't have the circumstances at that point. And then as time went on, even when NFTs started to become a thing, I was still recovering from some shit. So for me, the voice of reason that I heard was Gary Vee saying, if you don't have the funding to put into a project without thinking, how am I going to buy food? How am I going to pay rent? How am I going to expand my business? Don't invest yet. Put that money toward what you need at that point, and then get into it when you're ready and able to. And the interesting thing is, as I've gone along, I'm connecting with people. I'm learning about it. I've gotten a couple of NFTs at this point, and for very little to no investment point at this point, beyond my time and genuine connection with the members or the founders of those projects. And that is what I see as lasting beyond those major platforms, because you guys are right. People like having choices. They don't like getting blocked. I will say my knowledge of algorithms and SEO and various announcements over time, platforms have already been doing what you were describing, Grandpapa. The reality is, on Facebook, for example, notoriously, if you share a post with a link to another platform like YouTube, for example, if you put the link in the actual post versus putting it in the comments, the algorithm will react differently. If it's in the actual post, it will get less attention, whereas if it's in the comments, it gets slightly better attention because it's harder for people to find, and they're less likely to click out of the platform. Another interesting thing, I've been playing around with threads and stuff like that because I am fascinated by social media. I can get into that a little bit, and then we'll throw it over to Heartthrob. But interesting thing is, normally when you're in a space, okay, you can actually go to and use other apps, and it will continue playing, and you can join in and come back, and it's fine. One thing I've noticed is Threads. It shuts the space off as soon as you touch the app. That tells me they've blocked it. So, you know what that made me do? I went right back to the Twitter space, and I didn't engage with Threads until I was done with the space. Because to me, like you said, I don't like being blocked into having to make a choice. So I was forced to make a choice. I'm going to opt for the platform I chose first in the first place, you know? And that's just going to happen more and more and more. Heartthrob?
I would agree with you. Like, I'm not too I don't know. I'm not too opinionated on threads. I'll just throw a post up here and there on it and forget about it. But I did what you did when you started in the space. I came in completely broke, nothing but time and attention. And so like everybody that I follow or is following me on this account are people that I have personally had some sort of communication with. I can't say the same about my other personal account because I started that when I didn't know anything about the algorithms, and just accepting everybody as a friend was not a good idea, which actually later on turned out to be a terrible idea. And so yeah, I mean, like I've got like 5 years of education in like the 8 months that I've been in Twitter Spaces learning about Block 3. Like my first NFT experience was actually November will be 2 years ago, but I just got them because I come from trading stocks and scalping, and I'm just like, oh, well, this looks like a fun and exciting way to diversify my portfolio. I was 100% correct on that because I've met some of the most amazing people being in these Twitter spaces. The opportunities that have come my way are phenomenal. And Web3 Grandpapa, congratulations on being number 2 in Zentos for Zentaurios.
Go ahead, Grandpapa. Or Web3Fitty.
I'm not sure what the congratulations for, but thank you, Heartthrob, and I enjoy what you're doing. Um, I do see that I've never even used Threads. I looked at it, and when I realised that it was run by Facebook and Instagram, I instantly knew that all the rules and regulations in them two is going to be combined, and it's just going to be worse in the first place. So it's never actually going to be a competitor for something like Twitter. All it's going to be is a if you're a conservative, it's somewhere you go to troll for a laugh. And that's about it. And I think a lot more of people who are more people who are more, what would you say, the wokish crowd, for a lack of a better word. Well, people who love Twitter and love Instagram and who want the safety of words behind them. You can hurt my feelings, and I want you blocked. Those people are going to run there, but they are going to find that it's an empty space soon because they have no one to yell at, because all the people that they want to yell at are not on their platform because they're not on their platform because they're not allowed to say anything. So it's quite funny. But you're right. Brittany. That's a prime example of that division. And I think that's going to happen more and more. And I think Elon's going to run into that. I think he's going to offer more incentive and stick. Like right now, if you don't have a blue check mark, you're not discoverable. And if you don't have a blue check mark, you can't DM someone who has a blue check mark. And if you don't, and if you're not friends with someone and they have a blue check mark, you can't even view what they do without going to their page. And very soon you're going to have to pay on Twitter as well for your DMs to be secure. At the moment, they're not secure. We're going to have to pay a fee soon for them to be what did they say? What did he say it was? Encrypted DMs. That's going to be available soon for a fee. So I don't mind the pay-to-play model as long as the rules are really, really clear. And again, that's why this token-gated, the Britneyverse, the Britney certain million, the Zentaurios, like that is where that power is. And like I spend a bit of time posting on Zentaurios and doing stuff. I really like it because I can see, because what it does with the algorithm, and this is something that I don't think a lot of people realize. Even Sega the other day, Sega from Japan, Sega Gaming, they're getting rid of a whole heap of other games, and they're getting rid of a whole heap of things that they've been doing for years. Now, unless they're doing something that creates consumer interaction, they don't want to do anymore. And this is and here's a key point that a lot of people are missing. And again, this is just my humble opinion. It doesn't matter about your social platform. It doesn't matter about your website. It doesn't matter about all those sort of things. If you're not discoverable, you're going to be nothing online. So you have to understand that the key is to be discoverable and understand the rules, that if you're a business or rules around what you're trying to do, that your discoverability is what's really, really important. When, just say I have one of my accounts here on Twitter, right? And it doesn't have a blue check mark. Zentaurios does. I post and share on Zentaurios and I have my NFTs. My posts that get shared on Twitter Zentaurios are discoverable. My posts on that platform that are shared elsewhere are discoverable. So if you're a smaller business or a smaller person, you're developing out, right? And this is the power of like, I understand SEO really well. Like, and understanding that discoverability is the key no matter where you work. Platforms like what Ryan's doing, it was not only with privacy, he is the discoverability platform for all the small content creators. Now, as Zentaurios grows, itself is a really, really powerful tool. And if you are in its toolbox and it is used, that makes you discoverable, right? And as it grows, every new person grows and posts, you're adding another depth to it. And it's like compound interest, how it spreads. So one, if you're only small, you got a little website, it's not really indexing that well on search engines. You have a social media page, but you're not paying for it. But you start posting regularly on Zentaurios and you hold the NFTs, the stuff that it does is going to be discoverable. So that makes you discoverable. And I think, and I'm just saying that a lot because I want people to realize that it's that discoverable nature of what you do is the key. It's no good having all the great stuff in the world if you're not discoverable, right? And that's something that it doesn't matter how you get there. It's that discoverability is the key. What platforms and how do I use that platform to ensure that I'm discoverable? Me, I firmly believe in being indexed in search engines heavily. I'm a huge fan of that because a lot of people skip over the power of a search engine. They are powerful. Like they are the big boys that wield the stick as far as discoverability goes. Then being on a platform that makes that you're able to disseminate all of your information becomes discoverable. Now that is powerful. That is why I like Zentaurios. And that is why I post on it, right? And that's also why, again, it was the IMF and WorldCoin is my issue at the moment, but I really like WorldCoin. I hope I made sense to everyone.
It made sense to me, and that's a big part of it that's hard to describe. So I'm glad that you did it, because there's an advantage of, I consider Medium, that's my favorite blogging platform. And it works. You could see people get, if you Google stuff, Medium articles come up. At least they do for me. So you either got like really good SEO or following, or you take that article and share it around, which, as Brittany said, is getting harder and harder to do. I don't know if you guys remember Substack got into like a fight with Twitter, and Twitter's like, no more Substack. So like maybe 3 views on a Substack link. But as we all create content on that same platform, we all get that discoverability for each other. So someone new could come in and kind of jump on the train, contribute, and the Zenta train keeps rolling because there's always people hopping on and putting in content and stuff. And it's all, some people just personal blogs, but there's still in that Web3 network. So It just builds what's we're all about over here, whether it's flowers or meditation or blockchain and Bitcoin news, right? It just puts us all together and we grow together.
It's funny because you answered a question I was going to ask as far as topics. I mean, I will say, I think I pinned up a couple of tweets. There was, I would say, Grandpapa knows his shit when he's sharing information about, blockchain and the different things going on, and also very concise, which I appreciate because it's there's fluff. There's a lot of fluff, and sometimes you really just want to get to the gory little details, and especially with something like this and certain news, for example, like real genuine news shouldn't be fluff. It should be exactly what Grandpapa is writing and expressing and how he's doing so. But let's say, like, what topics are there, or is it sky's the limit and you're basically saying join this, and this is a platform that is not only sharing within the community as it grows and you build it, an actual build your whatever the cubbyhole metaverse thing, but it's also sharing to these other platforms so that you're gaining awareness and discoverability without necessarily always having to be the one to pull the trigger per se.
That is correct. And as more and more people come into this space, discoverability is going to get harder and harder and harder. I don't know if you've realized this, like, it's something like over 95% of websites never get seen from apart from the person that bloody uploaded it and put it online, right? Ever get seen by other people out of the 3 or 4 billion websites. That's it. And being able to be searchable and found is huge. And when more and more, I mean, that's one thing I must give it to Facebook about. If you follow their rules and be a part of their fodder, right? Facebook is good for being discovered in search results if you tell it it's allowed to. Google and Facebook have a love affair, which is fine. So understand it. You can have a Facebook page, have one follower on there, one follower. And if you post on there regularly, it will get in the search engines. Like, what? Like, that's such a cheap hack. Now, Zentaurios does the same, but it does the same across many different platforms. And that is the key. Going to have a token gated area. Have an area where I'm going to have my private stuff charged, token gated. And it helps make you discoverable on many other platforms where I don't have to pay to be a member in the future. The platform will organize and be a part of that and makes all the contributors discoverable. That is huge. I mean, that is huge. When platforms like Twitter at the moment only want to make you discoverable inside Twitter, right? That's it. Less than 6% of people who tweet are discoverable off Twitter in search engines, right? Less than 6%. Now, that comes down to how you post and understanding their algorithms. I mean, that can change and increase by how you post and what you do, but only 6%. Nearly every single person that posts on Twitter can be discoverable on search engines, right, if they just follow some basic rules. So, there's a big divide there. But you have to follow so many bloody rules on Twitter, it's nearly as bad as Reddit. But again, if you play the game, Reddit rewards you. If you play the game, you're very discoverable, but you've got to play their game. That's a problem. When independent platforms like Zentaurios comes along, and as it grows, its reach is going to get further and further. And as long as you're not some sort of weird-ass predator bloody thing, the reach that you're going to have across multiple platforms from posting on one platform and discoverable across multiple levels of depth. That's huge. And as more and more people come online, that is the winner. Like in my that is a winning formula. And if you can't tell, I love it. But that's a couple of the reasons why I love it. Not only like is Ryan a good guy, right? This is like the real deal. And that's a part of the problem as well. People want the FUD, the hype, the chance to be ripped off. And the fact that it's not set up at the moment where other people can just make a lot of money off it is part of the reason it's harder to get going. But the value of it is so huge, it's not funny. And I'm happy that I have a few of my NFTs early, because as it grows and develops, it's going to get more expensive to be a part of it, or the NFTs. And if you don't have them in the future, you're probably going to have to pay a subscription to be a part of it. But the benefits are so huge for the reasons that I'm talking about. So, that is why I like it. That is why I use it. That's why I have a couple of accounts on there. And Heartthrob, by tomorrow, I'm going to try and be number one on there. Thank you very much. But it's one of the reasons why I like that sort of platform, because you have the ability to be discovered. Most people can't even get their website discovered. Full stop. Like, that's it. Or they have a Twitter account. No, that's it. They have, But something like this gives you that opportunity to be discovered across the board. And, that's why I'm a huge fan of the platform.
Yeah, one of the things I find fascinating still to this day is how platforms, like you said before, that Facebook and Google have this love affair. Yet that's not necessarily true, in the sense that love is a mutual relationship. If you search on Google for something, Facebook will end up in the results. However, if you drop something relating to Google, a link that takes someone to the Google platform, for example, YouTube, and you post it incorrectly, it does not show, it doesn't reciprocate. It doesn't encourage backlinking. And it's...
That's right. I agree.
Yeah, and I never understood that. I mean, why not?
You got to follow the rules, Brittany. You got to follow the rules.
And yet, realistically, part of why what allows a website to gain significance is backlinking and building that reputation as a community. And that's part of what makes Google so strong, is that you can actually build that community network in a way if you're strategic about how you backlink with people you are connected to and companies and stuff like that. It builds your reputation as a website. And I don't understand why there isn't that mutualistic relationship in it.
That's because Google is the backstop. The social media platforms are social media platforms that can link together. Using things in links, Google itself is the backbone. They are the platform that's used for the scalability and the searchability. So they're totally two different things. So they do love each other, but in a different way. They have different symbiotic relationships. Where Google is friends with everyone on the internet that wants to interact with it, right? It has a place, multiple lingual, multiple countries, multiple everything all the way around the world, right? In most part. But where a social media platform has a stricter guidelines that it follows with its consumer base, where Google is just Google, where social media platforms still have these rules. I mean, you can post video links in Facebook. You can put search engine results in there, but you have to follow those rules and guidelines and those parameters for that particular platform.
Exactly, you can. but they limit it. And I understand, like, I know why, like, I understand the ins and outs and, and everything. I just fundamentally, it still perplexed me as to why they don't still encourage that, because could you imagine how much more powerful they could be if they actually fed more into the backbone? Because you're right. Google, essentially what we saw with all of the search engine platforms, it was that technology race, the advancement of who could produce the best results for everyone. And part of how Google does that is that backlinking system. So, we discussed earlier that Instagram and all that is dying. Like, if they were more interested in actually building a community and these connection points, it could be incredible, and yet they're not. And that's exactly where Zentaurios comes in, and other projects like it, because you're recognizing that there is something missing, and it's a really important aspect. It's the genuineness of the community and building that relationship with one another. Um, so for me, when I work out projects, I'm contemplating not just having a website, but making sure that there are I'm connected to as many platforms as possible, and having tools like Zentaurios as a possibility to use in those and make it a lot easier. Why not? And continue to strengthen that relationship by backlinking and building and continuing to um, and share as on the various platforms and everything. That's why social media has always interested me, because to me it adds this extra depth of the internet. For example, Anupam and I, we met on Facebook in a group. I can't even remember the fucking name of the community. But that's how I got to know Anupam and Dipali and his family all the way in India. I never would have met them if Facebook didn't exist. Or if I would have, it would have been on a whole different timeline, and that's a whole different conversation. We that's how powerful social media is, and if we tap into building the strengths of an actual genuine community, how powerful that can be, and it's incredible.
For me, Brittany, building a community, right? One of the hardest things with platforms and different social media platforms is that when you have individuals on there who have all different expectations and all different goals, and they're using the same platform, it makes it quite hard. And again, I mean, this is, I understand where Ryan's going a little bit in the future. I've even sent him a thing what I think social media independent platforms should look at in the future. And I have grandeur ideas or delusions of how it should be. But the key is that for a cohesive community to be together, it doesn't matter if me, you, and everyone here has a different direction that we're going in. As long as if we're all sharing the same platform and we're all sharing the same ideological goals and work together to achieve their goals across the platform, even though our identities and businesses are different, that's what's going to make us really strong. And that's when you can build up from things like on Zentaurios. And that, in my opinion, as far as business goes for small creators, right, to develop that depth and that discoverability, that is one of those niches that Zentaurios slips in. That's where a lot of the biggest ones miss out. They're like this thing that, we have that many people that come in, we catch a few of the big fish, and it doesn't matter if the minnows all run through. Well, we all know that minnows can turn into whales, so let's make it friendly for the minnows. So as they grow, there'll be some loyalty and they appreciate the platform, and as that spreads out and grows, that cohesiveness and that understanding and the development of the community and the platform, we can all help each other and grow. Like me and 350 are doing, like I said, I put some brilliant articles on there, and I'll say brilliant because they are, in my opinion, about SEO that the content creators on there can all have access to if they have an NFT. Other content creators on there can put information on there to help the other content creators that only they can access if they have that NFT. And that's all about helping build and strengthen our community in there. Even though we have different genres, I want them to go strong. I want them to be big. I want them to be more knowledgeable than me and then share more with me. I want to be the dumbest smart person in the room on there, so we can all share information and grow together. And I think that's where a lot of these other platforms are missing out, where platforms like Zentaurios can take advantage of that over time as it grows and develops.
There is a goal longer term to create kind of a small economy in there. Like if we all elevated our levels, right, and one of us is like the king or queen of blogs, right, and then you got like the AI goddess. Maybe you need someone to help you write a blog, and maybe you need an image for it. So then in there, you find someone because they've been in there for months or a year. They're not just going to run away with the money, and you've seen months of work from them. Then you got a project, and maybe you need some content put out. And there's a video editor in there, and there's a personality, a TikTok personality or something. So then it kind of comes through this in-house network of things. So that's a medium to long-term goal.
That sounds pretty fucking awesome as well, and it's funny because it kind of reminds me of a modern version of forums, and then like Craigslist, and then sprinkling in some social media, and then people who are knowledgeable about different aspects. I mean, I'm pretty sure most of the articles I read today from Zentaurios were from Grandpapa, um, ironically, at this point. And, I'm not an expert when it comes to Web3. I fully admit that. But what I read was valid information, and I'm quite confident that if I showed it to any of my more knowledgeable blockchain Web3 buddies, they would agree with the information and like it. So it's exciting to see this, since I feel like it's a really important step forward in blockchain, and even if it's small and in comparison to platforms like Twitter and Facebook and being built, um, I think that's exciting to be part of. I feel like we're all essentially kind of like building our own little ships or whatever. I don't know. It's fun. Like, I think it's just fascinating to be in this time of our lives where we're all learning and connecting and seeing this, and to think of where everything will be in the next 2, 5, 10 years. Because like you said, Web3 Fitty, it's people establishing themselves. It's not like you come to Zentaurios because you want quick attention. You're going to want that genuine connection and want to understand the possibilities of that community and the strength of it. And so to see as people do join, and then weeks turn into months, months turn into years, going to be some very powerful connections and genuine relationships built.
I will say though, I was able to post to Threads without losing this, and it was before you mentioned that, Brittany.
I think
So I don't lose audio when I go there.
Okay. Well, I did the other day, so I don't know what happened, but I did. So I would watch that though, just because there have been platforms that try to do that, but like it's they can, and it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, because they the way information is shared now, especially depending on the operating systems and things and what you have in place and what type of connection point and stuff. I don't know. It just fascinating to watch. Um, and I think just, continuing to engage with it is really important. Um, I don't think it's necessarily important that all of us be forced to use all of the platforms. I'm trying to help my aunt, understand, for example, that if she doesn't like a platform, she doesn't necessarily have to use it. um, and that's okay. And I think that's kind of that generation of you use what everybody's using, and you fit in and everything. But that's all mainstream and everything, and mainstream isn't always the best at this point, as we're all seeing. Were you going to say something, Anupam? Okay. Well, I do see we brought emergent times on. We'll throw it to you, and we'll go from there.
Well, hello, Brittany. Emergent. I'm well acquainted with half your audience as far as Zentaurios and Web3Fitty and Heartthrob and Web Grandpapa. I was just wanting to take advantage of this time to get in. Let's see, what was I thinking? I was thinking that the ordinals can only have 50 megabytes of memory, so putting video content on that's not going to work. Zentaurios gives us a great avenue to go ahead and archive our thoughts that we want to keep as cliff notes and publish them at our discretion without the bickering of mainstream copyrights. For one, that's like, and with this thread and with Elon shutting down sharing from cross platform, it's just building Zentaurios's utility to the moon. It's just a matter now of maybe just advertising a little bit more. I haven't really pushed it. I did just advertise it to a couple a minute or two ago. So I'm no coder, but I want to find that place to hash some video content out so we can do the same scenario, have our own grip on our material. So when we disseminate it, there's no bickering amongst the top 10. I think that explains it a little bit, don't it, Ryan? And pleasure again, Brittany.
Yeah, it does, and I'm glad you brought that up, because when you came up, I was just thinking about, who you are and why you join, and I think, and then you mentioned advertising. I think something wrong with the space in general is the marketing, because it's like here and now and based off of emotions, which if you read the article I pinned, that's been there for a while, right? But when Pepe came, I'm like, this is literally people buying marketing. Like, marketing has gone so far. Anyway, I digress. The point is, slow and steady. And I actually like picture crypto charts when people join, because I don't want it to like blow up. Like, let's say Threads dies next week. It's like, what's the point of that, right? So I would rather get to know people, network slowly over, it's been almost a year now. And you guys are here in the space with me. Like, that's the kind of growth I want. But yeah, moving forward, I want like scalable marketing. I don't want to like market Facebook when I have Zentaurios, right? So I'm glad you came up, and I'm glad that you're on there blogging.
Well, I'm not doing as much because I'm not going to spam it as much, but I'm also, slow and steady. That way you do the right stuff.
That's how we roll. I know a lot in this space. I mean, pretty much, I think really the only regular attendees here are Donatello tonight and Anupam. The rest are pretty much ones that Web3Fitty are, connected with and everything. And I was sitting here thinking about just how interesting and neat it is to have a space, and that the majority of the people here tonight are people that I'm just starting to get to know. And one thing Anupam and I talk about, one of our mottos is baby steps. I don't know if any of you all are familiar with the movie What About Bob? If you're not, you should watch it because it's fucking hilarious. And the joke of the movie is baby steps as a psychological training tool. And the truth, though, is that it's a powerful thought. It's just like in Finding Nemo when Dory is saying, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. It's the same idea, just shown in a different light, because What About Bob is not a kid's movie. But that line always stuck with me as I started to gain an awareness of what it actually meant and everything. And there's been times in my life where that motto has gotten me through. And it's that concept of slow and steady wins the race. It doesn't matter if you're running at 10 miles an hour, if your body cannot sustain that for longer than 30 seconds and the race is 3 miles, you're not going to fucking make it. So the reality is you have to know what pace you can keep up with. And when we broaden that to the relationships we build, we gain that, especially when we're not caring about followers. I think it's interesting how many people are obsessed on Threads with gaining followers. Fuck that shit. I'm interested in just using it and seeing what it's like to have another little version of Twitter. And I agree, it's not another version of Twitter. It's simply an extension of Instagram and being able to communicate more. So anyway, also very nice to meet you, Emergent. I think Emma Avan has their hand up, so we'll throw it to you and then back to Emergent.
All right, Brian. Good day, everyone.
Hello, how are you
Am I
today?
being heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm fine.
How are you? Oh, good.
Good. I'm fine. Though I'm new to the space, and Zentaurios, think I've been following up for some days now, not up to a month, and I see the platform to be a very good one. I tried checking out the page again. I observed very well that it looks more like what's it called? A web page, but which is fine. It's a pattern which I believe I will get used to, unlike the regular social media environment. Looking closely, you could see Twitter's arrangement is different, Facebook arrangement seems to be different, unlike that of Zentaurios. It's also completely different. I think it's fine that way. For the concept is fine. I had a thought at the course of the discussion, and the thought is this. I think it's better having few persons who are making basic research on recent updates. I think this would draw more attention to Zentaurios. When you have threads that are recent and very captivating, that is educative too, I think it will draw people's attention to want to know the kind of information they could get there. So I've read some of the posts, which are fine. So my thought is, sorry, I'm a little nervous being on this space. But nevertheless, my point is this: if only we could get recent updates. Like when I mean recent update, I mean when you have very new informations, it drags people to come to know Zentaurios. It pulls people. If I have to tell a person and the next person sees a very recent information that is valuable, that person tells another person. And from there, it begins to grow organically, not with force, just organically. I think that will help. That's my little suggestion. Thank you.
I agree, and thank you very much for speaking despite being nervous and everything. You don't need to be nervous, but I understand. I've been in your shoes, and I know Anupam gets nervous and everything too.
So many times. Very common for me.
Exactly. So you are not alone. Web3Fitty.
Yeah, I pinned, I call it Zenta News. So every morning I take all the posts from the last 24 hours, I put it to Medium and Substack, and there's a place called posts.news, and then it goes into LinkedIn and then Reddit. So daily it's the community's news that I share, and if Zentaurios has news, I put it in there too. And then when you log in and go to the dashboard, I, as the admin, have the ability to pin a message into the app. So when people log in, they get that week's update. And then I use the pin post of Twitter to kind of do, it's like an update, but that's where kind of like the marketing happens. But I completely agree with everything you said, Emma. And I appreciate that.
I also agree. I know I didn't mention that because I commented on, not needing to be nervous or anything about joining and speaking here. And I'm sure any space where you see any one of us, there's no need to feel nervous. But yeah, I agree also that building that community and connection is the most important thing. Um, and we do that, we're going to continue to grow. Web3Fitty and then Emergent.
Yeah, that's kind of actually why it was made. Because you can write that blog and there's buttons at the bottom. You just click them and send them. So you write one blog and click a button, send it to Telegram, click a button, send it to Twitter, click a button, send it to, there's like Japanese ones on there just because I thought maybe someday someone comes across it and shares it to their
Hey, I have
Hatana, right?
someone that just posted it's Derube. I don't know how to pronounce the full tag, whatever the hell. I'm actually going to be on his thing tomorrow talking about 12 and a half. But I think he's the one. They're planning a trip to Tokyo next year, and then they basically go through and play tourist, but from the perspective of living as a local there. And they do that by connecting ahead of time with people in those areas. And so they actually just announced that come springtime, they're going to be connecting with people in Japan. So the reality is, why not? Especially if you're thinking of this as a global perspective. There might even be options for India-based ones if you talk to Anupam.
Yeah, that's a whole thing too, to get like international branches, but I came out of Telegram, and they would say, check the pin message, check the pin message. So the pin message is limited to, basically a long Facebook Messenger message, right? But if you do your pin message and then you got your weekly blog there, which typically crypto projects would use Medium to do that, I think that is the way of updating people beyond a tweet. So I find that very relevant.
So I wanted to ask you, the reason why I'm here ain't just all coincidence. No. I just wanted to find out more about memory and how that's based. I mean, I heard Amazon's the big server hoster and stuff, and so I mean, are you buying like server space, and how would we look at that if we was wanting to create a chain just to host these videos so we could be back in control of our content and able to collaborate is the scheme, because it's still not happening like we want it. BandLab helps, but people want to mint their video and let their friends have at it, without these systematic repercussions from the bigwigs. And everybody's saying, well, it's only 50 millibytes for. Does anybody know of a chain that has a lot of megabytes that can host stuff? Because I heard that the ordinals are just taking the satoshis and bundling them up and setting them in the ordinal pile and calling it an ordinal. Is not really putting it on the same chain, but consolidating and creating a new fork, right? So I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there because I'm starting to draw a little bit of a picture on the capacity of storing these videos and being able to collaborate, Even after they're published, people want to be able to collaborate.
Yeah, there's storage, and then there's the server, and then like in our situation right now, there's streaming, which is server related, and it does get complicated. I saw an announcement today actually, and this is a funny name. They're talking about Dink sharding Ethereum, and like breaking it up to reduce the cost 10 to 100 times. I just think Dink shard, like that's the name you picked, Dink sharding.
Like legit sharding?
I love it.
Like sharding. Right?
Yeah, like I smoked too much and I lost my Taco Bell.
What the fuck? Who came up with this fucking name? Dink sharding. What the fuck?
But yeah, there's a 2 megabyte limit on it, which is ironically the size of a maximum Zentaurios blog.
Which for
you can't just drop it all at once. You gotta like squirt a little bit here, squirt a little bit there.
Shut up! Shut. Oh man, that one picture they put on it. We got spammed one day. Oh god.
Which Anupam, do you know what it means to shart?
Sorry?
Do you know what
I'm extremely sorry.
the word shart, SHART, means?
No, I don't know. I'll have to Google it.
No, he doesn't need to know.
Well, I mean, he kind of needs to
fart.
know as far as why we're laughing about, like, the name. I mean, and then the other aspect...
All right, go ahead and explain it. Web3Fitty can explain it.
Exactly, we'll make him explain it. He's the one that brought it up.
At the core of what I've been doing for 1 year is Dink sharding. A shart. Yes?
No, I really want to know it now. I'm curious.
So a shart is a shit fart.
Okay,
You fart and
makes sense.
accidentally shit yourself. You know.
And
Got
the
it.
Ethereum IEP, whatever they're called, it's sharding with a D, but it sounds like sharding with a T.
And no one thought to like think of how it might sound when people are saying it.
Yeah, and then they're like, let's just throw dink in
Yeah,
front of
and
it.
DINK is also one that has an abbreviation from. I mean, at least in some worlds, I think it's double income, no kids. Like, or, you know, uh, what the? Or I don't know if it has other.
Where I'm from,
Yeah.
it meant quality marijuana.
Who like is? I might have missed this just because I got distracted by sharding. Um, who came up with this? Like, who came up with the term and started doing this?
There, I pinned it. By increasing space for blob data, proto-dink sharding allows for more data processing, leading to less network congestion and lower gas fees. Oh my god. Sharding leads to lower gas fees.
Oh my gosh. What idiots.
Oh,
I
my
don't know.
stomach hurt.
That
My stomach hurt. Oh God.
maybe it's part of their advertising ploy because you get people to laugh about it, they're gonna remember it. You know, that's like good marketing.
Exactly. I mean, yes. It,
Way to take notes, heartthrob.
the 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 interesting thing will be as it gains awareness how certain communities will just say would react to it. You know, because especially sharding, like dink. Yeah, there's different meanings and it depends. So like some people might not understand or think anything of it. Whereas sharding, if depend, I mean, again, it does actually depend on the region. I mean, even if you know English, you don't necessarily know what sharding means. But some people will be drawn to it because it's funny. Other people might not think it's funny. Just saying. But it is interesting that, yeah, it's lessening gas and, yeah, sorry. I'll stop.
So they started with Bitcoin, then they went to Litecoin. Now they're falling back to Ethereum, and everything's able to be sharded uh, to the short end. And but that only gives us 2 megabytes. Is that what you said? How much storage did you say it had? We're looking for 3 minutes of video, right?
I think that could fit into 2 megabytes. You just can't like make a bunch of edits and stuff. It's the 4844. Furthermore, data bandwidth in proto-dink sharding is fixed at 1 megabyte per slot. So it's actually 1 megabyte. So it kind of like, it's actually kind of how modern web development works. Like, that's kind of like how streaming is. It constantly feeds data. So instead of being like, oh, we have this one video that's 20 megabytes and we're just going to drop it in there, you know, it breaks it up and it streams it as little shards.
A little chart here, a little chart there.
Are you trying to be funny?
No, the more I read this, the more it makes sense. Like, it's not just one big dookie. They're breaking it up and they're sharding it.
Like making
And
shards.
that's what streaming is.
And,
Yeah.
and we're actually
Let the
talking about
memes
shards like
begin.
shards of glass. Not shards.
Don't constipate your network. Shard.
Less from the gas. Oh my gosh. I needed this. I'm really glad you brought this up.
Yeah, so before we close out or whatever, can you give me a little bit background on you and how you met Anupam? Is that how you say it? Through Facebook and how this whole thing got started?
Sure. And wrapping it up is somewhere I do want to start heading as well. It's getting late where I'm at. I still have some.
I'm really late, and I'm going to go ahead and just jump out. But really pleasure meeting you, and everybody, will see you guys here and there.
For sure. Nice to meet you as well, Emergent. Thank you very much for joining. The nice thing is, before you drop out, we are making arrangements to share the recordings to YouTube and various platforms as time goes on. So these recordings will be permanent, not just a 30-day window on Twitter. So, these words aren't just in vain. It's joy. It's connecting with something that's supposed to be permanent. Um, and as far as what you were asking, Web3Fitty, so Anupam and we connected on Facebook in 2018 through, I think, a business group. And over,
Yeah, it was a business group, I think. I
yeah,
guess sales group, I believe.
yeah. And then over time, we left that community. However, Anupam has developer skills, tech skills, IT aspects that personally I don't really like to do. Um, I I learned some coding, and I can do shit if I really, really needed to, given enough time, possibly, maybe, probably not. But I learned it because I was interested in understanding the internet more and computers and software and just connecting with it. And whatever the case, that led to me connecting with people like Anupam and recognizing, because I knew enough to know what I enjoyed and didn't enjoy. And Anupam enjoys aspects that I don't enjoy. And then his sister enjoys other aspects that I don't enjoy. And it's perfect. And so over time, I would say we really just more became friends. We consider each other family. Um, I call them brother and sister, and we care about each other as if we're family members. And I would say for me, that's been really important. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and so when I left all of that, I left behind a lot of friends and family and community. So, rebuilding and growing that out takes time, especially when you don't want to just fill it with fluff and everything. And so I would say fast forward a little bit. One of the endeavors I've had in my mind, especially since leaving being a Jehovah's Witness and kind of recovering to a point where I could envision these things, was bringing a community of people together that just had open discussions and connection points, as well as building awareness for certain aspects that we don't necessarily bring up or talk about. For me, for example, I have undiagnosed autism. It was presented as an option for my parents to have my sister and I tested when we were kids, and they refused it because they were afraid of the testing. And come to find out, we do have genetic autism in our family, since it has finally been diagnosed with a distant relative that's close enough. And, so for me, Unseen Spectrum actually took a name in January of this year as I thought about how I could build awareness for spectrum disorders, especially as one of my friends' kids has autism, and her being able to get that diagnosis took a lot of work, and I don't think it should be that hard for people, whether you're children or adults, for anything. And the only way we can, build that out is talking about it and building awareness for it. And then just, so basically, that's the core of Unseen Spectrum, is just building awareness for spectrum disorders as well as community members, and different projects and stuff like that as time goes on. So I would say I think that's pretty much what you asked, correct?
Yeah, I kind of apply the same thing to SEO, and Grandpa Puck calls it a web, which is correct. But I see a spectrum as like a 2D, what do they call them? X, Y, Z. It's a two-dimensional thing, and I don't know. People are not two-dimensional. And my son was on, what do they call it? The cusp, or the spectrum of ADHD, and they said something like, "Do you want to medicate him?" I was like, "No, let it be who he is, and we'll work with him to be who." Like, I'm not gonna let society's roles define who he is, but I realize that, like, we all got to be part of society, and it worked out. So that's my relationship to what you said.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's basically my parents they downright refused us even getting tested. But a lot of it was that they didn't want us on medications. And also, I think there's a stigmatism, when I actually admit to people who know me professionally in person that don't actually realize that I'm autistic. Um, they're always like, "You are?" I'm like, "Yes." And then when they see that and they think about it, they're like, "Oh, yeah, wow, you're right. You're right." And I think helping people understand that there's so many various levels and aspects to it. I've interacted with nonverbal autistic people, adults as well as children. I've seen extremes, and I've mentioned before, when I'm being open with people, is that like, I'm fortunate I can talk, because people don't realize that certain spectrum disorders are nonverbal, you know, um, and understanding how appreciative I am for the fact that I can function in society and, not necessarily um, be seen that way is, I don't know, it's interesting for me. There's a lot of aspects to it. I've had to work very hard most of as long as I can remember cognitively, I've had to understand how to connect with people. I still don't always know how to communicate with people. Um, Even right now, it's a struggle. It's been a very long day. Been through a lot, and it's not always easy to talk about just how hard it can actually be, to produce words after a certain point. And that's just one aspect, and that's just one disorder that's on the spectrum. That's not ADHD, it's not OCD. It's not all of the other little aspects that go into it. And we're, as a society as a whole, mankind as a whole, we're just starting to understand on a very limited level what this all means and where it all comes from. I mean, most people think that the reason why their kids have autism is because of Tylenol or a medication or vaccines. Yet it can also be genetic. I mean, for the family member that was diagnosed recently, it's a close enough relationship that them doctors having that confirmed generational means that it's genetic in my family. That means how many generations back does this go? And I bet you probably longer than some of those vaccines and some of that Tylenol and all that shit. So we have no idea, and I think it's great to be building awareness and connecting, and I'm glad that you're seeing other options for helping your son, especially if to me, I'm the type of person where if I don't need a medication, I don't want to take it. I will take medication if needed, but if I can figure out a way to live without it, I'm gonna, and I think that's the way we should treat all medication. Medication should only be taken if it's something that's gonna actually benefit us to a point where nothing else is gonna fix it, but I know parents that have taken measures where their kids that have severe ADHD can't function in school, but they take strong steps. They homeschool them. They've even done things like changing their diet and controlling how much sugar and what they're taking in, even artificial coloring and different aspects where they recognize that if they avoid certain foods or dyes, even their kids suddenly don't need medication and function just fine, or at least to a point where their symptoms can be managed without drugs. I mean, we have no idea until we start having these discussions and continuing to tap into it, which, to kind of wrap things down. And I always, as we wrap up the Unseen Spectrum show, we always throw it to everyone on the stage that wants to kind of say whatever as they finish off. But one of the things I will say is we are in the works of setting up a separate segment of the show, so it'll still be the Unseen Spectrum show, but it's going to be called Holistic Health. And so basically we're going to be engaging the community and lining up certain people who are willing to support it, that are part of or different parts of the healthcare world, that have very holistic aspect viewpoints, and just opening up more discussions for people, whether it's adults on the spectrum or with certain other disorders. Like I have PTSD as well, so and other members that were not here tonight, but attend regularly, like Big Toke. He's a veteran. He has a degree in cannabis and stuff, so he's agreed to be part of the holistic health segment, and other members, so that way that's part of I believe building that awareness and changing how we engage with the healthcare system and take care of ourselves. So yeah. Anupam, and then Web3Fitty, and then whoever else wants to wrap it up, and then I'll finish it off. Are you having a issue? Oh.
Yeah. Did you call my name?
Yes, I was basically throwing it to you if you had anything to say or finish off for tonight or this morning for you.
Yeah, actually the morning is like everything has started over here, so I was a little bit busy with that. Plus, my audio was also going on and off. Um, it's a good experience. Unseen Spectrum is a new project that we have planned, and in the coming weeks, in the coming months, there'll be more to it. We'll definitely add things like Brittany mentioned. Um, that unseen part of autism that is there. There are so many things that we want to talk about and decide for our future for this project. We'll try to make it a success and let's see how it goes. And it's been a great honor to have Web3Fitty over here and everyone else who were talking. It was a learning experience for me, and I'll definitely try his project out and learn more from it.
Agreed. Um, I think it has been an amazing conversation tonight between getting to know Web3Fitty more and Zentaurios and all those aspects, but really just the discussions on community and the strengths and power that we all have by just simply getting to know each other and connecting and engaging with the different things we're all working on is quite powerful. Um, so yeah, thank you for joining us. And I did have a question for Web3Fitty, but we can always ask it later and stuff like that since we are winding down. Um, but I'll leave it up to you. So my question was basically, do you view Zentaurios as an emerging social media platform?
Yes, I do. And part of when I constructed it was the pitfalls of existing social media platforms. Um, and at the core of a social media platform is social networking. That's what we want to do. Social media is the content. It's the content we share between ourselves, which makes it social, right? The networking is at the heart of the platform. Social media has taken it, monetized it, and sabotaged it with advertising and likes and interactions and how many people click and buy your product because you shared it on our platform. That's what it's become. It's thrown out the networking aspect. It's covered it up with money. So I look at that and I go, what's wrong with that? What do we need to fix? And that's what I'm trying to build. And that is with or without Web3. And then we got this other special thing going on called Web3, which more heavily aligns than the crowd that's still on those old platforms. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think I could have made an app, no Web3, and like been making money right now. And I'm not mad I didn't. I'm just saying, like, you could make a little mobile game and like start collecting people's Apple Pay probably in a couple of weeks. But if you're trying to find the holes in the system, you got to take the long route, experience stuff, and blah blah blah. What I'm saying is, social media as it is broken. What I'm trying to build is an alternative to that, and Web3 is part of it. So yes, I do think it's a social media platform, but I don't think that the world realizes what a social media platform is quite yet.
I agree with that because so many forget the word social and only see the word media, I think. Um, at work, for example, there's no marketing role planned for what I'm interested in with media creation. simply because I'm more interested in organic, in community, and the actual social aspect of social media. They're interested in the billboard media side of things. And unfortunately, they're not the only company that is like that. And it's not I'm not bad mouthing the company I currently work for in any way. I know that this is a permanent recording, so like, for the reality is, um, for me, I'm not bashing them simply because there are so many companies like that. And there is a need to pull away from that billboard style shit. And that's not just the companies, but the people and everything. But you get so accustomed to it. I mean, people are so used to seeing ads on Facebook. Well, why not create my own ads? And that's basically how everyone's accounts now become advertisers instead of just these personal social accounts where we're connecting and genuinely meeting people and socializing, which is what social media is supposed to be, um, at least from our understanding of it. So I appreciate you answering that question. I'm on board for continuing to support this. I know I'm not. I don't think I've actually officially joined Zentaurios, so I've got to figure that out. I'm sure I know someone that can help me. But thank you for answering that. I know sometimes we don't necessarily want to get into the nitty-gritty of everything, but that's a pretty powerful answer. Did you have anything else you wanted to wrap up with Web3Fitty? Otherwise, I will throw it over to Heartthrob and then Emma if they have anything else to finish off with.
I do. I think I pinned it. Oh, yeah. This is my take on it. And other cultures and throughout history, what we call spectrum and disorders were like shamans, right? And this article doesn't do it justice, but I didn't have time to find a really good one. But they describe it as like, I don't know, trauma from another world or something. But that's not the point I want to highlight. The point is that like the people that we categorize as like a disorder, we meaning Western civilization, to other cultures is a gift. And that's how I view it. Like, and about the article not being exactly right. Let me just see what it said. Good news from the other world. That's not the thing to me. The thing I'm trying to highlight is the ability to see that and the ability to connect with that. That's the gift to me. Whether it's good news or bad news, the gift is not the news. The gift is the ability to receive it. So we call it different or spectrum or whatever. But yeah, I see it as unique and a gift personally.
I would say there's definitely, it's a blessing and a curse at times. However, overall, I tend to agree that just as if, there's, if you talk to people who are deaf, cannot hear, oftentimes if they have been part of the deaf culture, they actually are preferred that way and believe that they were meant to be born that way because to them, they enjoy their life more. And there's aspects where I think, at least for me, fortunately, I'm able to be aware of, I would say I'd be aware of my surroundings kind of thing. It's not always true, simply because exhaustion plays a part, food and diet. So there's so many aspects to um, having a healthy lifestyle when you're on the spectrum. The reality, though, is I do view life differently, and I think sometimes that's part of it's almost like a miscommunication. It's not even, we call it a disorder because, like you said, there's different descriptions and everything, of course, and definitions. The reality, though, is that sometimes it's just that I engage with the world differently. I communicate differently. And sometimes um, I feel like I'm actually speaking a different language. There's times I reach a point where I truly wish we could communicate telepathically because it actually hurts to talk. Like, not my face. Like, my face doesn't hurt. My brain hurts to talk. And I can't talk anymore, you know? Um, so, like, there's just stuff that I see that I don't necessarily think that other people see unless you've experienced those aspects necessarily. And by the same stroke, I don't see the same thing that other people see it. And I think just seeing that uniqueness is what's important, and recognizing that we don't know, because you're right. In the past, there were many different terms, and things like hallucinations. So define a hallucination, and it also sounds like the definition of what a spiritual vision would be, or what something like the Prophet Muhammad or Jesus or other um, um, ancient beings described and connected with. So, like, they're probably on the spectrum, people. you know. But today, in medical terms, it's described as hallucinations, and so, or epilepsy, seizures. People used to think that people who had seizures were um, taken over by possessed, demon possessed. Um, Seizures can also be part of spectrum symptoms. I've had seizures before. I don't have epilepsy, but I've had seizures. So yeah, go ahead, Web3Fitty.
I think my problem with it is disorder, because it's saying that it's not order. And I think why I define it as a gift is because you find your own order, even though society says it's not the correct order. I think is at the heart of what I'm saying.
That makes sense. And I think that's, for me, why you notice with Unseen Spectrum, it doesn't focus on disorder, it focuses on spectrum. To me, what I see is a kaleidoscope effect, or an actual spectrum, and recognizing that we can't visibly see all of the spectrum unless we're using tools to see it, um, and everything. And I think that's kind of the point is, all of us could potentially be on the spectrum in one way or the other. Like, we don't know because we've defined something that we don't fully understand. Even the fact that at one point, all of these different, I would say, various um, conditions, various descriptions we have, ADHD, OCD, autism, and then beyond, all of them were considered separate conditions. And now they finally recognize that there's actually a lot of similarities, and there's such a variety of aspects to it, and each person seems to be affected differently, that we have to call it a spectrum. It's pretty interesting to see how things are coming along. and where we can, tie into that and continue, hopefully starting to understand it more, So, yeah. We'll continue with the wrapping up. Heartthrob, is there anything else you wanted to finish up with, or any questions?
No, this was a great space tonight, Brittany, and definitely, I struggle the same way you do sometimes, and these Twitter spaces actually help me with my communication skills because, like, my social skills are not on par, but definitely being able to come into these spaces and talk, they help me a lot. Because, sometimes I stutter, sometimes I can't find the right words, and like I'm on the spectrum all over the place. Like, they want to cram all kinds of meds down my throat, and I'm not for it. I'd rather just smoke a little bit of weed and just go on my merry way.
Exactly.
But 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 being on the ADD, ADHD, hyperactive part of it, there's two aspects to it that people don't realize. I can be all scatterbrained chasing after those chrome squirrels, and other times I can get so focused in on something, and it'll be 3 days and I won't even realize that time has passed, but I'm just so focused on it that I don't care about anything else. And that's kind of how I've been with my flower project, is just very focused on it, and it only feels like I've been at it for 10 days, but looking back, it's more going on 50 now or something. I don't know, whatever 520 till now is. And I congratulate you on wanting to go nonprofit, because I'm in the process of doing that with my flowers right now. Long and tedious process. They are not lying about that when you go look on the websites, and so they say it's going to take, roughly a year before finalization. Well, right now I'm just gathering sources together so I can put that, go get everything legalized and everything. And it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. And, it's what I've been working on, because, like, I want to do the peer-to-peer support and mentorship without the stigmas of those paid professionals or those anonymous programs. And a lot of that has to do with my negative experiences with them.
I hear you on that. I could go into some fun experiences, and I'm sure certain ones of us have some very fascinating stories to share, um, and everything. So I look forward to getting to know you more, Heartthrob. One of the things you said made me think of one of the guys in my network, Jeremy Knows. He works at VFriends, but his partner is part of this nonprofit project where basically they have it set up where they can extend their nonprofit status to other nonprofits that don't have the funding to get set up as a nonprofit yet. And it's partially because they recognize that it can actually take a long time to get established. And depending on the state and regulations, if you don't have the federal paperwork in the U.S. to say that you're a nonprofit, then you have to pay all of the state fees, all of the taxes that you would normally pay if you were a corporation. And that's really fucking expensive. In most states, it's more expensive than owning an LLC. But you can't form a nonprofit from an LLC and stuff. And so there's aspects of setting it up that, yeah, that is one thing where you want to get your ducks in a row. And until then, be careful about like accepting donations and shit like that, or how you build it out, simply because you can set it up and get things going. Um, and simply just be really careful about what you accept into it to limit any tax liabilities or issues with it. Because essentially what I've come to understand is that without that status, essentially, if somebody were to hand you $20 to a nonprofit that doesn't have that tax exemption, then the federal government taxes it as if it was pure income. And so you don't want that at all. Just saying.
But that's why I got my team of professionals. One of them is a tax consultant slash advisor. So, I talked to him, and even though I want to rush all this, I understand I can't rush it because of, said topics, and there's even more to it than that. But there's a lot of, I got to make sure all my I's are dotted, all my T's are crossed, and everything it has to be done correctly. Especially with us going, like Web3, that's international, so I got to look into that aspect. And there's, I don't know, 3,000 different degrees of things you got to look at.
Homework season, that's what, that's what Gary and they've been talking about with all that AI and blockchain and pretty much all of this stuff is do your homework, and give yourself that time to learn it. And yeah, it's hard because you want to rush it. There's aspects that I want to work on and build out with Unseen Spectrum that I know I cannot do until I have that paperwork in order, and so it's okay. I'm putting certain aspects off. At the same time, I can do things like set up these spaces and gain awareness for what I'm building out without actually running into financial aspects of it at this point. Web3Fitty.
Yeah, just for the record, I was Tree Fitty, which is a South Park joke, and then I became Web3Fitty because it looked cool in text. Web3Fitty makes no freaking sense. You get Web3Fitty, so web or tree is cool.
It's funny because I saw someone reference that, and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure that's what it's supposed to be. And it's really funny because I actually, when I first started getting to know you, in my brain, I kept wanting to say Web3Fitty. But other people said Web3Fitty. So I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know the South Park reference because I never watched South Park. I've watched bits and pieces. Okay. So I don't know the reference, but I'm just saying, Web3Fitty actually makes sense, but you need to speak up about it because everyone else calls you Web3Fitty. Just saying.
I'm gonna meet about 350.
Yeah, and technically it's TREE space FIDDY, and I'm TTY. But yeah, it's a South Park reference. And
As long as you don't shard.
anyway, what I wanted to say is if you're looking for guests, I would like to personally nominate Heartthrob to be a future guest on the show because he has showed continued commitment to his own goals. And Zentaurios is part of that. But what he really shows me is that he believes in himself through the work that he does through Zentaurios. So I want to nominate him. If you're looking for guests, I know Web3 Grandpapa has the Australian slang and the jive and the SEO, but Heartthrob's my suggestion for future shows.
We appreciate that, and we actually do have an open offering to our community members to present people or projects, discuss even topics that they want to discuss. I mean, we've had episodes where the one I think the funnest episode so far has been the War of the Worlds episode where we talked about War of the Worlds and the history of that, but alien invasions and all this shit. But like we'll just go on and on for hours about random shit too. Um, so we do keep it open as far as that goes. And yeah, so we do have open invites there available. I will definitely throw one over to Heartthrob. Ironically, I haven't sent one over to Web3 Papa, Grandpapa, but I probably plan on it because, you know, the accent. But whatever. Yeah, we keep that open. We are planning things out because I do try to coordinate it. You know, we're playing around with different times and different dates as far as like the guest episodes like we did tonight. However, we do have our set weekly time, which is on Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific time. This Sunday we should be having another guest, Thomas Murtock, who's part of I met him through the VFriends community, but he joins into the Spectrum spaces quite a bit and everything. And then um, Saturday we have Ice World. He's a music artist, and I met him at VCon and seems pretty interesting. So I was like, yeah, we'll throw it out there because I want to bring music into the picture a little bit more as well. In the discussions, especially in blockchain. That's one aspect of blockchain that I'm kind of surprised does not get, like, there's awareness for it with, like, some of the bigger projects, but there are a lot of smaller artists that are out there having spaces, we're connecting with people and stuff that are pretty interesting. So Ice World is one of those guys. We're going to have a couple of the other ones coming up in August and stuff as well that are into the music side of Web3. And the holistic health segment, that is going to be likely on Saturdays. We're still playing around with the time, but it's either going to be a set evening during the week or else a Saturday evening. And so we're still, you know, coordinating that out, but we will, you know, obviously announce that and talk about it and everything because that is going to be a big aspect of building that awareness for how all of us can better take care of ourselves and see a way forward in the healthcare field, and how blockchain also comes into that too, because you know, I know there's businesses and governments already talking about the potential for businesses being on blockchain, healthcare being on blockchain, and all this shit. So, like, it's who knows what those discussions will bring up and elicit from all of us, because we are a rant approved zone, so we you know, there's times we, you know, people will go on and on for like, you know, 5-10 minutes and they apologize and we're like, nope, you're good, because the idea is obviously, you know, at some point we do want to shut up and let other people talk, but at the same time we want people to be able to express themselves and recognize too that that's part of the free flow of this discussion, and putting that out there for people to listen to later on and connect to. And I know one of my friends, Chico, who actually is also autistic, um, he connected with me through a Twitter space that he heard the recording of the space on YouTube. And I randomly was a speaker on it and talking about my background, and turned out he's leaving being a Jehovah's Witness, and I was discussing that on that space and everything. And so he found me on Twitter and then got my attention, because I am one of those jerks that does have it set up that people can't DM me unless I'm following them. But that has massively cut down on the shitbags that try to reach out, because I'm a girl and apparently, you know, all the bots want to like send messages and shit. I don't know. But whatever the case, he actually like changed his bio and stuff. But like that's the why putting this stuff out there and making sure it's permanently there for people to listen to later. You never know. Um, what people are going to hear randomly and connect to, and then come find you or the project or whatever the fuck was discussed at that point. And so I'm just excited. Every single episode we have is just amazing conversation, whether we're having a guest like Web3Fitty or whatever the hell, however the hell it's supposed to be pronounced, or just a random topic. There's always just fascinating little pockets we go down. So I appreciate everyone for attending. I think, Emma, did you have anything you wanted to say before we finish up?
Nothing much really though. It's a nice time being here. It's great having like minds together, and I believe just with time we'll have a great community. Though I know very well we'll get to know ourselves better, and I trustly believe something that there's always something to gain within a circle of people. I've learned a lot, and I also want to believe that those within the community too today has learned a lot too. So I hope that as we go along with time, we'll get to know ourselves better. Thank you so much, Rena. Thank you so much, Web3Fitty. Thank you so much, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for coming on and speaking, Emma. We enjoyed getting to know you a little bit, and I look forward to getting to know you more in this space as well as other ones moving forward. As mentioned, I'm always amazed at how our discussions go, and what seems like, will probably be a 30-minute, 1 hour conversation turns into 2, 3, 4 hours even. Um, and I'm forever grateful that Anupam handles the recording aspect, because I would hate myself later. Um, but I will be writing a recap article. Right now, for the most part, I put things out to Medium. Who knows, that might change soon with Zentaurios. You never know. Um, Either way, the idea is to continue building this idea out and sharing and broadening awareness for this project, as well as those that we either have as guests or join the speaker panel and contribute to a conversation in a set episode. So really and truly, I appreciate everyone attending. Um, I think that's about it. Anupam, did you want to say bye, or you good?
Yeah, no, that's all for this session, I believe. And have a great night, everybody. I guess it would be late for everyone now. Over here, it's morning. It's only 10:45 a.m. right now. So I have a long day to go. You people rest, have a good night's sleep, and see you all later.
Yes, we appreciate that. You have an amazing Thursday out there in India. I hope that the rains have stopped, and that you have an awesome rest of your day, and that everyone does rest well, especially, depending on what area of the world you are in. Since I know it's 10 p.m. here, it's midnight out in Web3Fitty world or whatever. So yeah, you guys rest well, have some wild dreams, and then wake up and make them reality tomorrow. Bye.